Hey everyone, Ronin here. I just want to let you guys know, I actually enjoy writing this what if. I enjoy it a little bit more than writing the other ones right now, just because it's something that has never really been considered in Pokemon, with a rival becoming a traveling companion of Ash. So, I hope you enjoy part 4. Let's begin. Last time, we saw Paul, Ash, and Iris head towards Snackerine City. Along the way, Ash caught Snivy and received an egg, while Paul caught a Dwebble and received an egg as well. We saw a Tepig evolve into Pignite and a battle between Trip and Paul, which saw the start of the two to develop the beginnings of a rivalry. Then, once in Snackerine City, after Paul added a Yamask to his team, he beat Lenora to earn his second badge of the Unova League. But when it came time for Ash to battle, he wasn't able to win. So after a week of training at the Battle Club, he returned back to the gym, only to be faced with the reality that he can no longer challenge it. How will this outcome affect things going forward? Let's find out in part 4. We pick up with Ash, Paul, and Iris outside of the gym when Lenora's husband comes out. Ash asks when he can challenge the gym, and he tells him that unfortunately the gym will be closed permanently, so Ash will not be able to get his rematch. But luckily, Unova has 10 gyms, so Ash will have to challenge one of the other ones in order to get the necessary badges. So, with this revelation, unfortunately, Ash and Duat will be unable to get their rematch against Lenora. And with that being said, the trio decides to head to Castelia City and the site of the next gym. The trio are on the road heading to Pinwheel Forest, which is the path that leads to Castelia City. Along the way, Ash and Paul train more with each other. The rivalry between Duat and Pignite has been getting intense, and with the two battling so hard, both Ash and Paul's eggs have been getting stimulated, and the two start to hatch. Once the light fades, both Pokemon look at Paul and Ash, and then the two Pokemon immediately attack each other. After a while, Paul and Ash are able to separate the two. Ash pulls out his Pokédex, and it is revealed that the Pokemon he holds is a Carablast, while Paul holds a Shelmet. But this doesn't last. Carablast and Shelmet break free and try to attack each other again, but Paul throws a Pokeball at Shelmet and captures it. This stops Carablast in its tracks. Ash and Paul are caught off by this whole thing. Ash then pulls out a ball and captures Carablast. Paul thinks to himself, training just got more difficult, but Ash is excited at the challenge. And with that, they move on to Pinwheel Forest. After spending some time lost in Pinwheel Forest and battling a Sawaddle that keeps attacking everyone, the trio runs into Berg, the leader of the Castelia gym. He has been living in the forest to get to know the Pokemon of the place. After spending some time with the Sawaddle, Paul sees this as a waste of time, so he uses it to work with his Shelmet. Berg asks about Paul, and after learning about Ash and Paul's new Pokemon, Berg urges Ash to join Paul and Shelmet with Carablast. Berg urges the two trainers to get to know their Pokemon, not to keep them in their Pokeballs. Ash is down for this, but Paul is apprehensive, only wanting to train. But after a while, Ash has made progress, and Paul is still struggling to get Shelmet to listen. So, eventually, Paul breaks down and tries it Ash's way. But by the next morning, both Pokemon, even though they still have the urge to fight, they listen to their trainers. And while all this is going on, Iris has been bonding with Sawaddle and has caught it. With that, the trio moves on from Pinwheel Forest. After some more time traveling, and some issues with the Ducklet trio, and clearing a problem with a Gothitelle on the Sky Arrow Bridge, the trio makes its way to Castelia City. After finding Berg in a park, and helping him clear out an infestation of Venipede that came into the city, Ash catches one of them that he had befriended. Due to Ash's capture with the Venipede, he decides to send Snivy to Professor Juniper in preparation for his battle with Berg. The next day, Paul, Ash, and Iris head to the gym. This time, Ash has opted to go first, as he didn't get a chance to rematch with Lenora. Ash and Berg meet at the gym, and they start the battle. Berg leads with Dwebble, and Ash leads with Carablast. The battle is short-lived though, as Carablast is still underleveled, and it loses to Dwebble. Ash then sends in Venipede. This battle is a little bit more even, as Venipede has more battle experience. As a result, Venipede is able to take down Dwebble. Berg then sends in his Whirlipede. Because it is the evolved form of Venipede, Venipede does not possess the ability to overcome it, and eventually falls to the rollout of Whirlipede. With Ash's back to the wall, he sends in Infernape. With the Flare Blitz, Whirlipede's rollout is overpowered and is no match, and it falls to Infernape. Next is Levani, and unfortunately this battle is all too one-sided. Infernape puts down a Levani with a combination of Dig to avoid a Grass Whistle, and then a Flamethrower, earning Ash the Insect Badge. With this victory, Ash has gained a little bit more enthusiasm, as due to the rematch that he never got, he is starting to fall back in his training a little bit, but he now feels a little bit more motivated to continue with his training. The next day, Paul has his turn at the gym. Paul, of course, is ready for this. The battle starts, Berg sending him Whirlipede, and Paul chooses to use Yamask. Due to Yamask's ability to control things with confusion, it is able to put down Whirlipede with relative ease. Then, Berg sends in Dwebble. Paul recalls Yamask and sends in his Dwebble. The battle is pretty even, until Berg's Dwebble evolves into Crustle. Then, its power proves to be too much for Paul's Dwebble, and it falls to a rock record. Paul then sends in Yamask, who is also unable to deal with the new Crustle, and eventually falls to an X-Scissor. Paul then sends in his Pignite as his last Pokemon. It takes some time, and Pignite does take some damage, but it is able to eventually put down Crustle with the Fire Pledge. Next, Berg sends in Leavanny. Leavanny does have the ability to outspeed Pignite, and it is able to inflict more damage. But this forces Pignite into Blaze, and with the Flame Charge, Paul is able to barely put down Leavanny to earn the Insect Badge. Paul is a little annoyed by this. It was too close, and all of his plans didn't really do much after Crustle's evolution. Paul was quiet as they head back to the Pokemon Center. Later, when Ash and Iris are trying to talk to him, they overhear some talking about a gym, about a day's boat ride from Castelia City. After some asking around, Iris finds out that the gym is in Verbank City. So the next day, the two head off to Castelia Harbor and board a ship. All the while, Paul hasn't really said a word to anyone since the gym battle. During the boat ride, Iris and Ash try to talk to Paul, but he doesn't really want to talk. He's just sitting there, thinking. But Paul's inner thoughts are something that seems to be troubling him. He's never really had a problem with gym battles before. His calculations and his battle strategies have always proved to pay off. He's never really come that close to being defeated, especially when he set up his team for type advantages. So what was the problem? The last two battles he had in Unova with their gyms, he was able to clear them easily, but Berg seemed to give him more trouble. Was it the evolution of Crustle that he just couldn't plan for, or is there something else? Paul's starting to question his battle style. He's starting to question the way he plans. But in the end, his thoughts are interrupted with an announcement that they've arrived in the Verbank Harbor. Once they leave the boat, they are in the harbor of Verbank City. But there's been some issues going on here as of recently. It seems that there's been a lot of mysterious activity in the harbor. It just so happens that it happens at sunset, and that's when they seem to have arrived. Paul, Ash, and Iris notice that things don't feel right, especially Iris, as she is somewhat sensitive to the situations. But once the trio try to leave the harbor, they are encountered by some mysterious forces, and they are forced to send out their Pokemon. Ash using Oshawott, Paul using Pignite, and Iris using Sawaddle. After some battling through some illusions and other objects that are flying towards them, it's revealed that the culprit seems to be a Pokemon. Paul pulls out his Pokédex, and it's revealed that this Pokemon is called Sigilyph. And this Sigilyph has demonstrated an immense capability of control of its psychic powers. Paul sees this, and he's intrigued by it. He orders Pignite to attack, and Pignite does with the Flame Charge, but Sigilyph is able to deflect it. This forces Paul to rethink his options. He knows that Pignite is at a disadvantage, considering that Sigilyph is a psychic flying, but he chooses to keep Pignite in for now. He orders another Flame Charge, which does manage to connect, but Sigilyph counters with an Air Slash, and this hits Pignite, knocking it back. You can tell that Pignite has taken an immense amount of damage from the Sigilyph. Ash tries to interrupt with Dewott, but Paul tells him to stay back. This is his battle. He's going to be the one to catch this Sigilyph. Paul then orders Pignite to use a Fire Pledge, and the Fire Pledge manages to make a connection, causing a burn on the Sigilyph. But Sigilyph isn't going down. It fires another Confusion towards Pignite, which connects. This puts Pignite down. Paul, a little shocked by the situation, recalls Pignite. He's starting to question himself again. Pignite fell to Sigilyph. He doesn't understand why. He knows that Pignite was at a type disadvantage, but he still overall should have been able to cause more damage than what he did. But then, Sigilyph tries to attack, and Ash and Dewott interfere. Dewott meets it with a Scallop Chop, and just then, Paul snaps back to his senses. He decides that he needs to end this now, so he sends in Electivire. An Electivire, with its immense electricity, manages to put down the Sigilyph, and Paul throws a Pokeball to capture it. Paul is impressed by the power of the Sigilyph, so he opts to send Torterra back to Reggie for right now. Then, the next morning, after they've had some time to rest at the Verbank Pokemon Center, they all head to the gym. Paul wants to go first in this one. He's feeling uneasy, but they know nothing about this gym, so he opts to take the first challenge because he really wants to be able to test himself. He wants to shake off this feeling of confusion that he's had over the past couple of days. Once entering the gym, the trio are introduced to Roxie, the hardcore rocker and user of poison types. She makes a proposition to Paul. He can use 6 Pokemon to her 3, and if he can beat just her 3 Pokemon with his 6 Pokemon, then he will earn himself the Toxic Badge. Paul thinks to himself, this should be easy. After all, 6 Pokemon versus 3, he already has the numbers advantage. So, they decide to head into the gym and get to the battle. Roxie starts off with her coughing, and Paul chooses to go with Dwebble. Though Paul is confident that he has the number advantage, it becomes readily apparent very quickly that Roxie is no pushover, as her coughing is able to put down Dwebble with a Gyro Ball. Paul isn't shaken. He still knows that he has the numbers advantage. So, he decides to go with Yamask. Yamask, although it is powerful, again falls to Roxie's coughing. It does cause some damage with its confusion, but not enough to put it down. Paul is starting to think to himself, what is the deal with this trainer? She is really strong. But he can't give in right now. He has the opportunity to earn a badge here, and he still has the numbers advantage as far as Pokemon. Paul then sends in Electivire, and though coughing is extremely fast, Electivire is able to keep up, and it manages to put coughing down with a Thunder Punch. Next, Roxie sends in her Scolipede, and Scolipede is an extremely powerful Pokemon. Paul opts to recall Electivire, and he sends in Pignite. This battle is a little bit more even for Paul. He's been working with Pignite a lot, and even though it did lose to the Sigilyph, it does have the type advantage here, and Paul is able to take advantage of it using Flame Charge and Fire Pledge to keep the Scolipede at bay. This allows him to put down the Scolipede after Pignite takes some damage, but unfortunately, Roxie still has her best Pokemon. She sends out her Garbodor. In Garbodor, it's not going to be easy to take down, and Pignite eventually falls to Garbodor after it gets hit with a Toxic and then a Venoshock. Paul is a little bit uneasy now. He decides to send in his Shelmet. Shelmet hopefully will have some sort of resistance to it, but unfortunately it's unable to push through Garbodor's defenses and it loses. Paul's back is now to the wall. All he has left is just Sigilyph and Electivire. Paul decides to send in Sigilyph, and although it does have the type advantage and is able to cause some damage to Garbodor, it is still not enough to take down the Titan of Trash, and it ends up falling. This uneases Paul. 5 Pokemon, and he's only been able to take out 2 of hers, but he still has his ace. He decides to send in Electivire. Electivire does manage to put in some work against Garbodor, but it is unfortunately hit with a poison. Paul is starting to be shaken in battle, and Electivire can feel this. Paul's uncertain about himself. He's becoming more and more uncertain as the battle goes on, and his sync with Electivire is starting to falter. As a result, Electivire ends up catching a Venoshock, which is double the damage because it's poisoned, and its endurance isn't able to hold on, and it falls into battle. This causes Paul to lose the gym battle. He can't believe it. He lost 6 Pokemon against 3. He had the numbers advantage and the type advantage in some of his battles, yet he couldn't pull through. Alright, and that's all we have for part 4. What do you guys think about this part so far? How do you feel about the hatches of Paul's and Ash's eggs? And how do you feel about the new additions to their team in the Sigilyph and the Venipede? And also, how do you feel about the inner crisis that Paul seems to be facing? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you liked the video, please make sure to leave it a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications on, so that way you'll never miss a future upload. And if you want to talk to the rest of the people in the Ronin clan, please join the Discord. The link is in the description below. And I will see you in the next video.